Welcome back, everyone, to the next episode of the Nerdy Misfits podcast. I'm Connor.
And I'm Matt. This episode is going to be broken into two parts. The first part of the episode is going to be talking about our origin story in the sense of when we fell in love with nerd culture, where it all began, and where we are now. Followed by the three whatchas. What you're reading, what you're watching, and what we're waiting for. So, Connor, what's your origin story when it comes to comic books and nerd culture in general? Like, where did it start for you?
That's a good question, Matthew. I totally am unprepared to answer. I guess, I don't know, this sounds like a little bit too blanket of a statement, but I guess it's like, I feel very, like, basic in terms of basic, like, male stereotype, I guess, childhood boy stereotype, you know, likes fighting, likes violence, that kind of thing. So I feel like growing up as a kid, my dad was a huge, like, Spider-Man fan. Like, he collected, like, OG Spider-Man comics and stuff when he was younger. So I feel like that, obviously, he carried that. He has 3 sons, so, like, he just, you know, when it comes to, like, sports and whatnot, obviously he introduced us to a bunch of different things. So, Spider-Man, you know, you get the basic toys and whatnot. I would say probably the big first one would probably be like the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, 90s Iron Man, X-Men, like those cartoons. We had a lot of like the VHSs of those ones specifically. Actually, we're recording, I mean, I don't know where they are, but they're in this room that we're recording in somewhere, the Spider-Man ones. But I would say that that's definitely where the superhero took place. As for why I liked it, can't really say. I can only assume masked guy with cool powers fighting people. I would assume that that's the main reason why when it comes to superheroes. But I'd say that's the start, I guess.
That's right. Now, so that's the start of your comic book superheroes aspect. When it comes to the origin of why you fell in love with anime and manga, where does that begin?
Anime and manga I got into a lot later. I would say I got into anime young in terms of like I watched a lot of the 4Kids stuff. But I got into a lot of the 4Kids stuff. I watched like the 4Kids dub of One Piece, Tokyo Mew Mew or Tokyo. I can't even remember what the 4Kids actually was called. The title for it. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon. You know. Had a Digivice and whatnot. But I would say young Connor had no idea that is anime.
It was cartoons, Saturday afternoon cartoons.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, you know, I would wake up hyped for like Power Rangers and then I would just watch until, you know, lunchtime was at least for here, that was when all of like those big ones played. It was like 11:30 was Digimon, 12 was Pokemon, 12:30 was Yu-Gi-Oh. Something along those lines in that order.
That's right.
And I would watch those. No idea that they were anime. But knowing it was anime, definitely a lot later in my life. Actually, my brother, who's 2 years younger, he was really into Japanese culture, anime, manga, etc. And he's the one who was like, hey, we should watch this. I know you're going to like it. Because obviously he also knows, he obviously knew what I was also into in terms of like what type of shows, like superhero shows and cartoons and stuff. Obviously I'm a big fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And so he obviously knew that I would like it. And I was always just kind of like, I don't want to watch that. I don't feel like it. Or, nah, it's not for me. And then one day I was like, all right, let's watch whatever. So the first anime I watched that I was condescent or, you know, knew it was an anime was Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And now, obviously, it's hard to say if you should recommend such a high-rated anime as the first one. For one, the positive is it's good. People are going to like it because they're going to like something, whether it's the characters, the story, the animation. Like, there's so many good things to pick up on that it's a good way of hooking someone in, but the problem is it's also so good that are you setting them up to dislike other anime, right? For me, I definitely enjoyed it. So I would say the first few anime I ended up watching were all with my brother. It was just kind of a good way to spend time with one another and bond and whatnot. So we watched like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I remember I watched it like 2 or 3 times in a row after the first time I saw it. It was actually like I really liked it that much. After that, I watched SAO with him, Guilty Gear or Guilty Crown. Couple like very basic shows like that, and then kind of I started watching stuff more on my own. But that was actually I was already like 19ish or something like that, 20 when I started watching those stuff that like anime. And I guess for me, like it was just a medium that I ended up falling in love with. I liked that the episodes were relatively short. I was also huge on binge watching. Like I was really into shows that were just longer. And a lot of anime is, at least of shonen variety, when you're first getting into anime, there's a lot of stuff you can binge. There is a lot to binge, and like there's so much anime, and when you first start watching anime, there's just so many good things to watch. You know, like you can't even say, oh, there's nothing to watch, because there's so many good shows to watch. And I think that's one thing that I was super interested in. It was like the pick of the litter. Sorry. But to be fair, still is. It's still I'm 300-400 anime deep, and you know there's still tons of good stuff that I haven't seen. So that's definitely what I fell in love with. Manga, I was already into comic books, so it's not too far off in terms of, you know, the medium of comic style art. The thing I liked about manga and the reason I got into it was impatience. You know, watching an anime that is unfinished in terms of it doesn't have an end, but the manga is going on, or the manga has ended. I would say that was the biggest like green light for me. Like, okay,
gotta go to the manga.
Gotta know how this finishes, or gotta know what's going on. And then I just kind of really started to appreciate what mangakas go through, especially after watching and reading Bakuman, which is about, if you guys don't know, it's by the writers of the Death Note, and they do a story that covers kind of like you follow aspiring manga artists. There's a little love story in there or whatever, but that part's not important.
Whatevs.
But it kind of gives you a cool little glimpse of the manga industry, and it actually did allow me to have a much stronger appreciation for what manga artists go through and how difficult it can be. And I just kept reading more and more manga, and then you notice the subtle differences in people's art styles or the way they tell their story, the comparisons of the monthly stories and how much they differ compared to the weekly stories. And then obviously you move your way up, and then you start reading something like Berserk, where it's just mind-blowing. Just everything is, fantastic. The art is fantastic. The story is fantastic. The imagery, everything, you're just blown away by. And the craziest thing is, it's black and white. And I think that I'm not going to say it's better than comics. I think comics are great. I think seeing inking done is also fantastic, but how great artwork can be and detailed in just black and white is mind-blowing to see by a really talented manga artist.
So then what was the first manga you picked up? Because I know you talked about like the impatience of like watching anime, and then you're like, oh, I need to read the manga. Do you remember what your first manga was?
I'm not too sure what my first manga was. I want to say it was probably Tokyo Ghoul. Obviously Tokyo Ghoul Rude is a very controversial
topic, to say the least.
Topic and ending. And I think I really wanted to know why people thought that, because if you watch Tokyo Ghoul without knowing anything about Tokyo Ghoul, and you watch Tokyo Ghoul and Tokyo Rude, there is a decline in the animation and somewhat of the storytelling, but you would never know that was not the way the story was supposed to go. And then, so I wanted to know why people were mad, basically, or why people were upset, and that's why I ended up reading Tokyo Ghoul. So I want to say that was the first full manga I read, because nothing else comes to mind necessarily about manga, but I've read a good chunk after that now.
That's fair. I know with the Tokyo Ghoul anime to manga comparison, I think like Tokyo Ghoul, like the 12 episodes, like the first season, I guess, that is a pretty good adaptation of the manga, correct? And then Rude is when they just like tell a different story.
Yeah, there's like an anime ending as opposed to a manga ending, for sure.
That's fair.
And then I guess the other stuff like I wouldn't say I'm a super into Star Wars, but I enjoy it. I feel that's just natural, like boy liking lightsabers and cool droids and cool ships and whatnot. I think a big thing for me for Star Wars is probably the Lego. I had a lot of the Lego sets growing up, and the Lego is badass for sure. And then in terms of other nerd culture, I've always just what I like, you know. It's hard to explain, but like sports, you know, like if a sport is interesting to me, then I would watch it and then get into it from there. I definitely go through phases. There's times where I'm really into the superhero stuff or Star Wars or anime, and then sometimes, you know, you just need to take a break, put on the brakes, and then slow down. That happens a lot for me. I would say a lot for anime. Sometimes I just overdo it and I just burn myself out from wanting to watch it, and then I need that break, and then I go right back in and all.
I think that kind of comes with being a nerd. If you're like, I feel like it's pretty common when it comes to like, if you're really into nerd culture, there is a high chance of you getting burnt out, especially if you're like almost, I don't want to say late to the punch. Like, for example, like if you were just getting into the MCU now.
Yeah, you're like catching up.
You're catching up for like 30
and you want to catch
movies. And you want to, because you want to be included. And you're like, cool, I'll just go home, pull up the Disney Plus and watch 34 movies and hope. Yeah,
you probably end up watching even two movies at a night would be a lot.
A little excessive, right? Because even like, especially
that's almost a full workday.
It's a full workday of just watching Marvel movies, essentially. Especially if you're trying to watch in like the phases too. Like if you're just being like, all right, I can crank out phase 1. But then you're burnt out because phase 1 itself is like 6 movies. And if you're going like hardcore, there's all like the short films and stuff like that get connected. It's a little much, you know?
Yeah, I can't even watch like a Lord of the Rings film in one go.
Oh my gosh, those are long movies. Let alone the new Batman movie, 3 hours.
But yeah, I would say, especially, but if you're behind, it's hard because then you feel like you want to catch up and you want to be able to be part of the conversation. If you're on any of the subreddits, you want to be able to participate, or even just not have stuff spoiled is another thing,
exactly.
Right? Like, I'm sure there's people who are catching up on One Piece that don't want things to be spoiled, but you definitely know it's being spoiled all over Twitter, all over Reddit, you know, like...
Exactly. With that big of a content, too, like that big of a... Because it's on chapter... past 1,000, obviously. It's been past for 1,000 for a while now, but...
Yeah, I think we're at like 1,050, somewhere around there.
Insane.
But it's definitely... I think people... They get burnt... You overdo it, for sure, I think.
No, exactly.
And you just need to recognize, like, just because you take a break doesn't mean you're not a fan, you know? Real life comes first, friends, you know? It's okay to do some of that other stuff, too. Like, for me... I'm also pretty big into video games, so video games is another way of taking a break from those, and vice versa. Like anime, reading, sometimes just chilling on my bed or chilling in a nice comfy chair reading a manga is a nice way to take a break from video games and stuff too.
Exactly. No, I 100% agree.
How about you, Matt? Where's your origin story lie? Who's, you know, someone kill your family and then you decided to take up the comic?
How did you know? Gosh, no. So my first, like, any nerd culture, I think, goes back to when I was super young. My brothers were watching, like, Power Rangers. I think it was, like, In Space or Lost Galaxy. We had on VHS the Psycho Ranger VHS tape of all, like, the Psycho Ranger episodes from Power Ranger in Space. So that was, like, my first, like, anything, like, comic nerdy was just, like, Power Ranger in Space. Like, here's, like, a team of 5 teenagers that were troubled and so on and so forth. And I was like, wow, I kind of relate to this in a weird way.
What a Japanese story.
What crazy. Well, I mean, you know, Power Rangers is inspired by Japanese stuff. It's fine. Super Sentai. But anyways, yeah, so like that was my first thing of like anything like Power Ranger-esque. And then even like when I started growing older, like when I was able to like understand more things, I started watching like Power Rangers on the TV. I think like Dino Thunder was on at one point when I was younger, and I was like, I remember that because, you know, like Tommy Oliver came back and it was such like a big thing, right? And then from there, like I remember I went to my uncle's house one day and I didn't know anything about Star Wars, but he had Star Wars Revenge of the Sith on DVD. So that was like my first opportunity to get into the Star Wars. And I was like, wow, I'm just in the middle of it all. And like as a young kid, I was like, I don't understand any of this. I need to somehow understand. So then I've obviously eventually started watching the Star Wars films and everything.
So you're a big self-teacher.
I'm a big self-teacher when it comes to my nerd culture.
Like you like see one thing and you're like, oh, I need to learn more about that.
Exactly. Okay. And that was the same thing even when I watched like X-Men 2, like X-Men United, the movie. I was like, who is this blue guy with a weird devil tail?
Oh, Nightcrawler was like that guy that just... My brother loves Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler's a great character. Underrated for sure. But definitely, like, I saw that and I was like, weird. He's blue skin, and so is this Mystique character.
Are they the same?
Are they the same? Are they connected somehow? And then that just literally got down into a giant rabbit hole learning about, like, all X-Men, and then obviously with the Spider-Man movies coming around that time too. It just opened this giant, like, hole of Marvel knowledge that I was like, I need to know as much as I can.
Yeah, there's one thing I've learned from Matt is he goes above and beyond when it comes to learning about someone. They can pop up in a comic book one time and he'll be like, wow, that was an interesting character. And then he'll literally go through their entire wiki, where they like originated from, who came up with the character, what year they came up with the character.
To be fair, it was a thing in the friend group, like my friend group, that like if a new superhero film came out and there was like this character that not a lot of people have heard about, even if they were just in the scene for like 2 minutes, I would get text messages from people being like, who is this character? So then I literally had to like self-teach myself this entire character origin. So
you're just Google.
I was just Google for...
Because Google is hard to look up.
Apparently. They're like, Matt, who is this Psylocke
They're
character?
just like, I could look this up myself. Or I could just ask Matt, who will know.
Exactly. It's fine, you know?
You just became the comic encyclopedia.
I was at some point. I know. I feel like sometimes I still am. When it comes to the most like minuscule characters.
And if you don't know, you'll look it up.
Yeah, and then I'll let you know. But otherwise, yeah, like that was my first thing to Marvel. And then I think with Marvel, when I got into high school, I started going to like the local comic book shop, starting to collect Marvel. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should check out like DC titles too while I'm at it, you know, because everyone loves Batman.
How old were you when you like first started getting like comic books?
Into comics? Probably about 14, 15.
Yeah, I think I was like 17 when I got my first comic, somewhere around there. I remember my one friend was collecting them, and honestly, I never even thought about collecting comics. I was super into the movies, and obviously TV shows and stuff, but I remember the one time he's like, hey, like, I'll take you. You can go to the comic book store, and that was the first comic book store I ever went to, and it was...
dangerous.
Definitely dangerous, yes.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also so real, like, seeing all the comic books there, and then, like, the culture of just being part of, like, your local shop is... I think it's a really cool experience.
It's important, honestly. Like, for a comic book fan, like, when you, like, going into a comic book store and becoming part of, like, the pull list to get your weekly, like, comics or bi-weekly comics, depending on what you collected, that, like, made you feel part of a community that was definitely more unique, right?
Well, and you just don't feel different either. You see other people coming in to get their pulls, and then, like, you know, you really do become part of their community, because then they start recognizing who you are, what you're reading. They'll even maybe recommend, hey, like, I know you're really into Batman or the Bat Family, like, there's this storyline that's going to be coming out. And then a trip to the comic book store was so much more, like, than just, oh, I'm just going there, picking up my 5 comics and leaving. You could... I remember me and Matt have gone a couple times to the comic book store together, and we would spend, like, 2 hours on a comic book trip, you know? Yeah. Like, going in, looking at comics that we're not collecting, thinking about, or seeing, you know, what's being discounted from used books that people have brought in, and then talking to the owner. The owner of our local comic book shop was a really chill guy. And the other thing was, he was into more than just comics. You know, you're not just talking about comics. I remember talking to him a lot about hockey and baseball, and
he was well versed. That's for sure.
You could just, and we could spend hours talking to him.
Well, even that's how I got into some comic book titles later on. Like I know we talked about like Swamp Thing briefly, but like I got introduced to Swamp Thing from a comic book like owner, like one of the people that were working at the comic book. So I can't remember what I was reading. I think it was reading like some darker storyline. They're like, yo, have you ever read Swamp Thing? And I was like, no. I have no idea who this Swamp Thing is. He sounds like sounds like bad.
Sounds like a D-list character.
Yeah, sounds terrible kind of thing. And he's like, no, man, like this is what's going on. And I was like, okay, this is something I've never heard of before. I don't know what the red, the green, and the rot is. Okay, I'm intrigued. Screw it. And then, yeah, now Swamp Thing's like one of my favorite characters, especially from like the New 52 run. Like Scott Snyder did amazing. But I'm sure we'll talk about that in a future episode.
For sure. And yeah, guys, if you're thinking about getting into comics, or you just read them online via like Comixology or whatever app you're using, like, Give it a try. Going to your local comic book store and meeting some of the people there. Like, you don't necessarily even have to buy comics. It's just... It's
social
definitely
place, really.
So yeah, it's a place where you can meet people with like-mindedness that are into probably the same things as you. You know, you can definitely meet some friends going to your local store. So don't be afraid to go out, and it is nice to support your local stores as well.
Exactly. So. And also, like, if you go there, like, don't be afraid to, like, ask questions or, like, ask for suggestions. So, like, hey, I'm reading this storyline right now. Like, do you have any recommendations? And the good thing about comic book stores usually is that if the one person that's working right now doesn't know too much about particularly that character, like a storyline that's similar to it, they'll usually just ask the other worker, and between the 2 or 3 people that are working, you'll guarantee get an answer. And if they don't, the customers that are around you will probably overhear the conversation, and they'll be like, hey, I just finished reading this, and this is what that's like, kind of thing.
It's a mixed bag of people of interest, too, there, for sure. Because most, at least the comic book stores we've gone to, obviously they cover more than just comics, right?
They're
collectibles,
hobby shop kind of style, but they're front run as a comic book store, and they obviously have like
games,
board games, minifigures,
etc.,
trading cards, so on and so forth.
So it's definitely a hub. It's a hub for
nerd culture,
a great hub
really.
for nerds.
Yeah,
for sure.
Especially a good starting point too, right? But when I was like 14, 15, got into the comics, it was because my bus stop was 2 blocks away. So any day, like every Wednesday, me and my friend like would just get off the bus every Wednesday. That was the poll day, new comic book day, and we're like, you know what? We're just gonna walk 2 blocks this way. It's fine. And there used to be like a bakery across the street, so we'd always go to the comic book store, then grab a baked good, and then carry on with our day, kind of thing.
For sure. Yeah, that's I think when I started collecting comics, me and my one friend, we just started. We would go on. Was it every Wednesday? Was the poll day?
Yeah.
And we would go, just like a trip together, like an hour or whatever, and pick
Which
up
is interesting
books.
because you and I had different comic book stores to start.
Yes, and yours closed down.
Mine closed down, unfortunately, for different. There's reasons why they closed down. It's fine.
It's not fine. Matt's still sad.
I'm still sad. I missed that comic book store.
It was also really close to your place.
It was really close. Yeah, literally, it was in walking distance. But no, like it was interesting because even though it was 2 separate comic book stores, we both had a very similar experience in our own stores, and like even when we'd go together to visit our own comic book stores together, like we still had that experience, and it was still a good time.
Yeah, and that just goes to show you like the people that work there nerds can be nice people.
Exactly.
Maybe not the ones online sometimes, but
yeah, the subreddit sometimes are over.
But once you actually meet them in person and they actually have a face and it's not just some person behind a screen on the internet, they'd be really nice people.
Exactly. But yeah, and then in regards to anime and manga, I'm currently right now slowly getting into the manga aspect of it. So, but anime was Connor here got me into anime after he got into anime. I think the first few animes I watched were very like common animes. So I think I watched Sword Art Online, Death Note, and then I think the first anime that you were like, hey, you might like this, but I don't know. I was like, cool, I'll give it a watch. And then I watched the first season of Blue Exorcist.
Oh, Blue Exorcist.
That
was a fun one.
It's a fun one. I have yet to see past the first season because anyone I talk to, they're like, just don't watch past the first season. Just stick with the first season. You'll like it. I'm like, okay.
You can just become that guy and be like, read the manga.
Read the manga. But yeah, my first like attempt to read manga, I think, was when Promised Neverland came out. Mm-hmm. You and I watched the first episode together. For people who haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it because it's such a great story.
Yep.
At least the first season. First season, Promised Neverland, fantastic. Second season, no comment.
Completely awful.
Completely just bad. Please, I don't know.
Read the manga.
Read the manga.
Hate to be that guy. I hate to be that guy.
Yeah, hate to be the people that are like, read the manga. But like, watch the first season and then read the manga. It's fine.
Or read the manga and watch the first season. Whichever.
Yeah, whichever, But anyways, I remember watching the first episode and then I went home and I was like, just sitting there, I was like, I need to know what happens next.
Yeah.
Because I think it was up to episode 4 was out already. And I was like, I can't wait weekly. I need to know. So then I ended up catching up to Promised Neverland where I was reading it weekly when it came out. I never got to finish it, unfortunately, because just things got in the way, and I think I burnt myself out from reading so much in just like a couple weeks. I was like, I need to just know. But it's great.
To be fair, Matt's on the final arc.
Yeah, I'm literally on the final arc. I don't have too much left to read.
He burned out right at the finish line. Like, he just passed out right before it.
But yeah, no. But yeah, that was my first connection to manga, and I love reading manga. I'm a huge comic. Like, I read lots of comics just present day right now. Like, I'm constantly reading Marvel comics. But Yeah, that's basically my origin of nerd culture and how I got to be where I am today.
Where I am today, based on nerdy. Today. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll carry on. We'll go to the second part that we kind of talked about is the three watches: what you're reading, what you're watching, and what you're waiting for. So we'll cover what we're reading right now. Connor, if you want to go first, what you reading right now?
Honestly, we should start with watching. Watching's easier because I'm not watching as much stuff right now. For watching, so I just finished school recently, so I wasn't super up to date. I'm watching a lot of anime.
Okay.
Obviously, we've talked about on the previous episodes that I haven't been watching a lot of MCU stuff. Mostly, I think it's just burnout and just nothing has like really hit that I'm hyped for it status, if you will. But in terms of anime, currently Spy Family's out and
it's got a good rep, right? Like I'm hearing some good things about it.
It was hyped up for sure. Also, like I've already read the first couple volumes before the anime came out, and I thought it was a fantastic story. So once I heard that it was getting an anime adaptation, like that was at the top of the things to watch, and it hasn't disappointed so far. So I'll say that's been really refreshing. In terms of recently, I watched Tokyo Revengers when my brother was down. He got me to watch it, and then I ended up actually catching up on the manga like instantly after finishing the anime, because it was definitely that good. In terms of other shows, nothing too crazy right now in terms of my list. It's more of backlog that I'm looking through and deciding what I want to catch up on. A big thing for me is actually I want to watch all of the Eva movies to catch up so I can watch the final Eva movie. And
what is Eva?
Evangelion.
Oh, okay. I was like, is Eva this new thing that I've never heard of before?
No, Evangelion.
Okay.
So that's high on my to-do list. And then I'm also, a couple of my friends, we started watching Hunter x Hunter. They've never seen it.
So you've seen it before, though,
yeah,
right?
This would be like my third or fourth time rewatching it. I'm also caught up in the manga. But yeah, so it's like the classic, they know they'll like it and they've never, it's just, it's too long or like, just not starting it. So we actually started kind of like a little weekly watch together where we watch a couple episodes. And it's definitely the push they've needed because everyone who hasn't seen it that's watching in this group is loving it. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. And now, like, a good chunk of them are like, if we weren't watching it weekly together, I guarantee you they would already be like another 30, 40 episodes deep.
The binge.
And now we're holding them back by watching it weekly. So that's definitely been enjoyable to see their reactions. I think that's part of what's fun for me with anime, with people who have never seen it. I try my absolute hardest not to be the super spoilery, like, oh, you gotta wait for this. But it is fun to watch someone else enjoy something that you liked a lot. Like, I never got... Matt's seen Hunter x Hunter. I actually lent all of Hunter x Hunter pretty much to him on Blu-ray, but... I didn't see how Matt liked it, but even just like Matt's reactions as he like would be watching and text me or give back the Blu-ray and be like, holy,
what did I just watch?
Like those reactions, that's like what I love about it.
Well, Hunter x Hunter is an interesting one because it's obviously your Shonen Jump, and it's one of those things where it's like a longer Shonen Jump, but not to the it's not it's no like Naruto or like Shippuden, it's no One Piece or
it's
anything
funny
like that.
Because it's older than a lot of those.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was the remake 2011 one, right? Like the...
Well, yeah. The anime is 2011, but I mean the manga has been going on since 1998, 1999.
Manga has so many hiccups, doesn't it? Like, doesn't the writer usually take like long hiatus breaks?
Yeah, Togashi is known for having a lot of hiatuses. But to be fair, like obviously I want Togashi to be healthy.
Yeah, most definitely.
I think that's a big oversight that fans have of when it comes to mangaka. Like, guys, like it can be a hard job. So, if Togashi needs all the time he needs, I hope he'll be able to finish it for sure. But he definitely is known for having some long periods of wait. But the thing is, every time Hunter x Hunter is in Jump, it's hyped up. People are excited for it. That's how good how much people love it. So, eventually, hopefully, fingers crossed, Tagashi stays healthy and he will finish the story that he set out to finish. He did say he would die trying, which hopefully he doesn't have to. But
yeah, hopefully not.
Like, what a legend! What a legend!
What a legend amongst the manga community.
What a freaking legend! How about you, Matt? What are you up to for watching?
For watching, I'm not watching too much right now. I'm kind of in one of those breaks that like I just need to kind of like break. I also, during the recording of this episode, I don't have internet at my house. Haven't had internet in weeks, so I haven't had time to just like lay back and just relax and just watch some anime. So, but I've slowly right now been watching Komi Can't Communicate.
Woo woo.
I'm only like 3 episodes in, and it is just insane, but not in the way that like a Shonen Jump per se is insane. Like there's no like a lot of fighting. It's just a lot going on, and it's just adorable, and I'm loving all the characters.
This is funny because this is coming from a guy who usually complains about slice of life being too boring.
Can confirm, but then I watched Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, which is it technically a slice of life?
Yeah,
like
I
it's
guess
a
so,
fantasy slice of life, right? But I watched the first season because somebody recommended to it. I loved it. I was like, I need more of this.
You need more of that, yeah.
That not chibi, but like that like cutesy.
Well, it's like a comedy, right? Like
yeah,
it's fun. It's fun. Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. It's definitely super fun.
And then because I watch scrub anime as well, in the sense that this is anime that has like a 6.3 rating on average on my anime list, an anime that no one talks about because it's so bad and everything like that. I watch those occasionally. So the one I'm watching right now is Last Hope. Without going into too much detail, it's basically like a post-apocalyptic artificial intelligence world with basically animals and AIs have come together and they've like mutated together, and there's a group of like civilization trying to like defeat them and like try to take back the world kind of thing. I'm butchering it right now because it's super confusing.
The animal mechs?
They're animal mechs essentially, yeah. But it's like, for example, like there's this giant mech that's fighting
CGI mechs.
No, not some of it's terrible CGI, but some parts I'm like, this is not complete trash.
Oh, okay.
But it's still bad. Don't get me wrong.
Is
but
it
I watch
it. Is it on Netflix?
It's a Netflix.
Oh, okay.
It's most of the trash anime I watch is on Netflix.
It's just what's easy for Matt to watch.
Exactly.
That's Matt's big thing is it on Netflix? Because then he'll just download and watch it, and then even if you recommend something that's on Netflix, he'll just end up picking some random thing that like the trailer of the Netflix is probably interesting, and Matt's like, hey, that looks interesting, or the synopsis is well enough written that Matt will be like, that sounds interesting, and then for some reason Matt isn't a quitter on series. You know, he's not of the life of like, oh yeah, that was bad, and then stop watching. He suffers through it for some reason.
Except for one. There's only one anime I've ever stopped watching.
Is it that other mech one?
No, it was Devilman Crybaby.
Yeah, but people love it.
I know, people love it, man, but I watched the first episode. I don't even think I finished the first episode, if I'm being honest.
But were you put off by like the art style and animation or the story?
I think it was a little bit of both. Mostly the animation. I was like, this is just not my cup of tea.
Because I'm pretty sure that won Anime of the Year.
I did. I'm like 95% sure it did, and that's the worst part about this conversation. But that's basically what I'm watching on that aspect.
But you're relatively caught up on MCU stuff though, unlike me.
Yeah, I'm fully caught up.
Like you've watched.
I've watched all of the Disney Plus shows that have come out, and I've watched Doctor Strange. So I'm caught up to everything, even like Eternals and Shang-Chi, Black Widow. I put Black Widow off for like 2 years from watching
it.
I watched it, yeah. So I've watched all the MCU content, excluding... The only thing I haven't watched of the MCU is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Inhumans. And some of the Netflix shows. To be fair, I watched like half of them.
Okay. So, yeah. So you're pretty well versed in the MCU.
And I'm watching through the Clone Wars. For some reason, I just never got around to watching it.
You've watched Rebels?
No, I haven't yet. I haven't
so you're working through all of
I'm working through all the Star
animated
Wars animated stuff with Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch.
I know that our friend Dan, he swears by Rebels. He absolutely loves it.
Obsessed with it.
Which, I've never seen Rebels. I've seen Clone Wars, and if it's anything like Clone Wars, it's got to be great.
Yeah, exactly. And even like the fact that Clone Wars like came back like 2 extra seasons over the last couple of years and stuff like that, like there's a reason for it, right?
For sure.
So, bros, yeah, that's basically all I'm watching right now that I can think of. And I'm just like, obviously I'm watching like Flash, the CW show that comes out weekly right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm still watching it through that, holding on by a thread. We got one final season after this, and then
It's actually funny you say. I
Dunzo.
don't remember the last live action of anything that I was watching like actively.
That's fair. It's weird to me, like, yeah, because it's very uncommon that
Watching something on TV.
yeah, if you don't have like satellite TV, and you don't like, unless like I guess like Flash for me technically is like it's an indirect Netflix original because it's partnered with Netflix Canada, so it comes out weekly.
Right.
But
it's just I can't remember the last thing that wasn't anime that I watched weekly live action, because I feel like even if there is a show live action, whether that be nerdy or not, I think I just wait and I'll be like, oh, I'll watch that later.
Fair.
And then sometimes I don't.
Well, it's
sometimes
the
I do.
Kenobi show. You'll watch it weekly.
Yeah, I think Kenobi for sure I'll be into and watching. And now that we've started the podcast, I think I'm going to be a lot more inclined to watch stuff.
Yeah.
Even if I don't like it, just to be able to
Have
we
an
can talk
opinion on
so
it,
we can
yeah.
talk about it for sure.
Because there is a lot of Disney Plus content that you
Almost
haven't
too
watched.
much.
Almost too much.
Honestly, there's so much.
5 or 6 Marvel shows you need to watch.
Yeah.
We got WandaVision, Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, Moon Knight.
I've seen the What Ifs.
You've seen all of What If?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were interesting.
Some of them are good. Others I was like, it's what
I feel like that was kind of the point, though.
Yeah.
There were some that people would obviously enjoy more than others.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of reading, though.
Yeah, in terms of reading, do you want me to go first?
I feel like we're complete
different
on different sides of the coin right now.
Oh boy, because obviously I'm not too actively reading manga. Like right now, as the scrub person I am, I'm currently reading through the Pokemon Adventures manga because obviously I'm a big fan of Pokemon growing up. So I've always wanted to read the manga. And
so whereabouts are you in the manga? Like, is it like current what's going on in Pokemon,
So
or
I'm
is this like far past?
So I've finished up the Red, Blue, and Yellow arcs.
So that's like Gen 1.
Gen 1. I've read all of Gen 1, and I think I'm 2 volumes away from finishing up Gen 2. So Crystal has been introduced already, and right now I'm actually in a tournament arc.
Oh, a tournament arc.
So it's the 8 Johto gym leaders versus the 8 Kanto gym leaders.
Okay.
And they're in a giant stadium, and like red and blue are going to be there, silver, gold, crystal, all the characters obviously. But yeah, and then from there I'll continue with reading. I think it's Ruby and Sapphire, I believe, is next. Gen 3.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll get to follow those characters next. I don't know what's gonna happen because I know everything kind of like in Pokemon manga. There's a whole like overall arcing story that goes up until Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Right.
So everything that's happened from the Red Blue manga all the way to the Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I think is all like really interconnected. And then it's not till after that it kind of does its own, like Black and White's its own thing, and like X and Y is its own thing, Sun and Moon is its own like conclusive
like their own story. Okay.
Yeah. But so I'm reading that, and then right now I'm reading through the Marvel's comic, the Avengers comic for their 2018. Is when that one started. So I think they're on I want to say they're on issue like 57 or so right now. But I'm sitting on issue 30. I just started the new arc called The Age of Khonshu. So I'm super pumped because I just recently watched Moon Knight. So I'm super excited to see how Khonshu kind of connects to everything. Yeah, otherwise I'm just reading through a young adult novel for Star Wars from their High Republic run.
Young adult meaning that just like that's a target audience, or?
Yeah, so with this, without going into too much detail, the Star Wars High Republic, they have 5 writers. Basically, there's a writer's room, there's 5 writers, and they write source material for 5 or 6 different styles of media. So there's a mid-grade novel series, there's a young adult novel series, there's an adult novel series, there's a manga, there's a comic storyline through Marvel Comics, there's an IDW comic series as well. I can't remember if there's any more. Oh yeah, there was a couple audiobooks and stuff like that came out as well. But yeah, it's just I've been reading through it all, like start to finish, all the source material that's come out for it. I'm just finishing up Wave 2, so I got one more wave, and then I'll be officially caught up for the next phase of the High Republic in October of 2022, so this year. But that's enough about what I'm reading. What are you reading, Connor?
So I'm reading a bunch of weekly stuff that I'm caught up on from Jump. I would say primarily Jump is what I'm mostly reading. It's just kind of what I like. But that would include like My Hero Academia, One Piece, Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm also reading and caught up on Vinland Saga. I'm caught up on Hunter x Hunter, waiting patiently for Hunter x Hunter. Rent a Girlfriend is another big one that I'm caught up in weekly. What else? What else am I reading? Tokyo Revengers is another series I'm caught up on and waiting for new chapters of. And then things I'm at. Oh, and Berserk. Rest in peace for Miro Sensei, but see what they end up doing. If they decide to continue the story or not, I'll be there to read it if it does.
That is fair.
In terms of stuff I'm catching up on or have like a bunch of chapters I'm behind or that is finished that I'm reading, I'm reading Quintessential Quintuplets slowly. It's just kind of, it's more of it's fun. It's like a fun comedy, you know. I've enjoyed it. I'm definitely not crushing through it as fast as I thought I would, but it is a change of pace. It's kind of, you know, from the typical shonen, battle shonen that I read a lot of. There's Trojan X, which is from the same writer of Tokyo Ghoul, his new manga. I'm not completely caught up on that. Then I'm reading that. Dr. Stone is done. I need to catch up and put that on my completed list.
I did not know that. Are you all caught up, or is the manga actually done?
Manga's done. I'm not caught up on it, though.
That's fair.
And what else we have? I started Kingdom last summer, and I read like 100 chapters instantly, and I was really into it. And I forget what happened. I think school started up, and then I like put it to the back end, but I definitely want to get back into Kingdom. Super enjoyed it from what I read. Then I've got Goodnight Poon Poon, which I stopped reading for a bit. I went through I'm going to say rough period, but it was just like, you know, I went through a breakup and it was not easy. And I just wasn't in the right headspace. Poon Poon can be very mentally draining, I'd say. I'm on volume 3 or volume 4. I'm almost done volume 4 of Poon Poon. And it's hard to describe the story. It's very good, but also not, if that makes sense. Like, you don't enjoy it, but you respect it and you realize the passion and went into it and stuff. But you have to be mentally in the right headspace to read it, which is why I took a big break from it. I think I'll probably be finishing that up soonish, but that's why I took a big break from Poon Poon. I just didn't feel like I was in the right headspace to read the story.
That's fair.
What else? Spy Family, I actually took a break from. Now that I'm watching the anime, I'm just kind of enjoying the anime as opposed to forcing myself to continue reading for a bit. So I'm just kind of... I'm like maybe 10-ish chapters behind.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Probably just let it keep going, and once the anime's done, I'll go back to reading it. There's Record of Ragnarok that I'm caught up in. The anime was disappointing, to say the least, but I definitely enjoyed the manga in terms of like what feels like the ultimate tournament arc, basically. It definitely delivers. I'm slowly working through Vagabond. Definitely... If you want some insane art, that is a series to go to, Vagabond. I'm about halfway done through Vagabond, and I know that it's on an indefinite hiatus, but that is irrelevant to me because I'm still enjoying... It's like the same thing when people are like, there's no point in reading Berserk now, and I'm just like, yes, there is. There absolutely is.
It's a good story, like, why not?
It's an the journey and the emotions you'll go through getting to that point is worth it.
In a nutshell, you're reading a lot, is what you're saying.
I think, and then the last thing, I started Monster.
Okay.
And then that is everything I'm currently reading. It sounds like a lot, and that's because it is. And that's why some of them, you know, it's... By having a lot, and some of them are like different genres too, it's just whatever... There's always something for what I'm feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can read that. So a lot of the ones that are weekly, it's like nothing, right? Like the chapters are like, 10, 15 pages sometimes. It's like you hop on, you read them on Sunday when they come out by Viz, and it's
We
quick.
call it a day. Yeah, exactly. It's not taking too much out of your time either.
It's
right?
like maybe reading like 5 or 6 chapters on Sunday, which is like nothing. So it's like the benefit of being caught up is good, but then when you have like a bunch of other stories you want to read, it does become a little much. And something like Kingdom, which I want to read, it's just so hard because it's like 900 chapters. It's a big boy. But I can't say that I'm, all of the ones that I'm currently reading, like, I think are all enjoyable and I would recommend all of them. Like, some of them may be more, quotes, basic or, like, normie, but, there's a reason why those series are so popular. Like, there's a reason that they become normie, I'm putting air quotes, normie, is because of how enjoyable they are and how easy they are to get into.
Most definitely. No, I 100% agree with that. Now, without going into too much detail, is there anything you're hoping, like, what you're waiting for to come out, whether it be a movie, manga, anime?
I'm waiting. Well, there's Shinkai's new film, which I feel like probably won't come out until next year for Western audiences to watch in theaters. But that's definitely one of the big ones.
I think we're both equally excited for that, to be honest.
I think Quintessential Quintuplets is doing a movie.
Okay.
Which would be... I don't know how much they're planning on covering of their manga, but I'm going to watch it most likely. And then a series I'm looking forward to is definitely Chainsaw Man is supposed to come out, I'm pretty sure, this year sometime.
Chainsaw Fall? I think it's Chainsaw Man.
I've read Chainsaw Man, and that thing is crazy. That manga is it's so unique, especially for being a Jump manga. It is different.
That is fair.
I'm excited to see how Studio Mappa animates it, how they tell the story, but I feel like that's a very hyped series for a lot of people. Bleach, final arc of Bleach being animated and coming out.
That's big, actually. There's a big news in the anime.
All the Bleach fans coming out of like
they're hiding in their shells.
They're hiding holes and all pumped up. I'm sure that arc will deliver to definitely. I'm not going to say people should just go and watch Bleach to catch up, but
use a filler list if you're going to watch Bleach.
There's still a lot to watch. That's the thing. But Bleach is enjoyable. I feel like a lot of Bleach gets unnecessary hate for sure, but I think the people really enjoy the arc, and that's definitely an exciting one. I'm sure there's stuff I'm missing too in terms of I really check the seasonals, like the 2 weeks before on like AniChart or something, and I'll like see what's coming, and then I kind of decide from there what I'm going to be watching. And then I think Attack on Titan probably comes out before the end of the year, part 7 of the final season that we're on, which it's becoming a meme, honestly, in terms of the final season, and then we're on the third part of the final season, so like why not they could have just probably gone by season still.
Exactly.
But I mean, as someone who's read the whole manga, I'm not going to spoil anything for the ending, but I'm interested to see how they animate it, what decisions they make. If they do end up going straight up with the manga, which did get mixed reviews, or if they go with a anime ending, which would probably get mixed reviews.
That's fair.
How about you, Matt? Is there anything you're particularly looking forward to?
Nothing on the top of my head, like in the anime community per se. Like obviously, like kind of similar to things like Chainsaw Man. I'm oddly intrigued for. You've told me bits and pieces of it, and I'm like, okay, I'm here for it.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued to say the least. But otherwise, like outside of anime, I'd probably say like obviously with like Kenobi coming out soon, super pumped for that. Yeah,
I think Kenobi is like on the I'm excited, but not like it's more like on like the I'm chill about it, but like
I'm intrigued.
The second it comes out and be like, I'm watching that.
Yeah, I gotta watch it. Next Friday from the recording of this podcast comes out in a week from now, which is insane.
I'll be there. Episode 1. I'll watch it. I'm ready.
First 2 episodes coming out on the same day.
I'm ready.
Even better, Other than that, like, honestly, I'm just kind of curious where the future of the MCU is going to be. Like, obviously, my man Ryan Reynolds with the Deadpool movie. Supposedly he's getting a third one. I don't even know if it's officially greenlit or not. But I'm really curious how they're going to do that with, like, Disney not wanting to really do R-rated films.
It would be interesting to see how they handle Deadpool.
Yeah, it's years away. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to picture the third Deadpool if it comes out for
X-Force.
like another 3-4 years, maybe at least. But otherwise, I don't know. Like, I'm curious to see what's gonna happen next for the MCU as a whole. So I wouldn't necessarily like I'm excited for it, but I'm curious to say the least.
Well, we have Thor. Are you excited for Thor?
I think I'm excited for Thor. Like, Taika Waititi is one of my favorite directors in the film community, so I'm pumped to see what he's gonna do with his sequel to Thor Ragnarok, essentially.
Thor is in his hands.
Yeah, exactly. Literally in Korg's hands, because he voices Korg, so it's literally like...
Thor is in Korg's hands. Scary thought.
Scary thought, you know, Thor's just... I just picture, like, Thor's just, like, being cradled like a baby in Korg's hand.
True. That's funny.
But yeah, I don't know. Other than that, like, I'm curious to see what's going to happen, really, as a whole, but...
See what the MCU works up to, yeah.
Exactly.
And if DC will... It's like that meme where the guy's poking the thing with a stick, and he's like, do something.
Hey, DC, do something. DC's never going to do something. Sorry, DC. Maybe. Hopefully.
I guess they did come out with Batman.
Yeah.
And then Aquaman 2.
The Batman.
Aquaman 2.
Is Aquaman... Oh, wait, did Aquaman... No, Aquaman 2 is still in the making?
Yeah. Well, and there's the whole Johnny Depp.
We won't get into details.
Trials
That's a
going
controversial topic, Connor.
I'm sure they might have to do some editing potential.
We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I think that pretty well concludes the third episode.
Yeah, guys, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. And always remember to drop a review. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about in future episodes. Let us know what you're reading, what you're watching, and kind of what you're excited for next, you know? Remember, you know, you can always catch us right here on Spotify for new episodes and content. And where else can they find us, Connor?
Yeah, check us out on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Nerdy Misfits.
Other than that, yeah, you guys have a good night.
Peace.